I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on Subnautica. I'm going to tell you guys the good stuff that I like the most, and then I'm going to talk about some of the negatives as well afterwards. But honestly, in a kind of bite-sized, just a very quick forefront of the review, I actually really enjoyed this game, and if you have an opportunity to buy it and play it, then I absolutely think that you should. So let's get into it. Subnautica. First and foremost, the game is very relaxing to play, which is super nice. There are a couple of segments inside the game, especially towards the beginning, where you feel a little bit pressured by things that are happening later on. The game looks fantastic. The underwater explorable areas, the fish, how you interact with things, all of your items, it all looks really, really clean, which is really nice. You want a nice kind of exploration game to look good, and although sometimes it can feel a little clunky performance-wise, we'll talk about that a lot in a minute when we get to the negatives, but for the most part, everything looks smooth. Everything looks good, and it feels good. Sometimes you have to slash with your knife to kill a fish, and that can feel a little bit wild, but for the most part, everything's grand in that regard. I had a lot of fun kind of pursuing the main story. We built a lot of stuff in the game, and we explored a lot of it. I didn't really dive too deeply into the lore, but we tried to cover as much of the kind of side stuff as possible. And I think I might have even done more building had the game not gotten laggier and laggier, which again, we'll talk about in a minute. But for the most part, I really enjoyed just mulling around in the sea. You start off very basic, and there's a nice sense of progression. You don't feel overwhelmed in the beginning. It's very much just, okay, you need water, you need food. Don't drown when you're under the water at first. From that point of view, I loved it. I loved exploring. The game's also quite atmospheric, obviously. In the beginning, you've got these nice kind of sunny parts of the planet. All your underwater coral, all your colourful fish. It's quite shallow. You don't have to worry about going too deep or anything like that. You can just mine ore, catch fish, and build up your resources, and that's really relaxing. Obviously, as you get more advanced, you start building the bigger equipment. You can go further down into the depths of the ocean. Things start to get spooky as well. So your nice calming atmosphere can actually go to quite eerily and creepy at some points. I've heard so many people say, "Oh, Jack, how's Subnautica? I really want to play this game, but I'm so scared. I would be too scared to go into the depths. The big sea creatures scare me," and I can kind of get that for sure. So as you do go through the game, it does start to feel challenging, which is nice too. It's not just a complete walk in the park to play this game. You have to kind of micromanage and work on your inventories and your storage space and get all that stuff right. And when you do get it right, it feels really rewarding. So kudos in that regard. On the flip side, I got to talk about some of the negatives. And again, these don't really overshade the good stuff, right? For the most part, Subnautica was still a really positive experience for me, but there are some really annoying things about this game that I want to talk about, and it's stuff that I hope that they kind of work on and resolve, mostly for the second one. So yeah, let's just get into some of those. For the most part, the biggest problem for me in this game, the thing that was problematic for me the most, was obviously the performance on the PlayStation 4 console. Some people have came in and said that the PC version is quite laggy as well. This game came out in 2014, so it's been out for a while now, but as I started to build my base more and more, you could tell how unoptimized the game was. I won't deliberate on it too much, but this is by far one of the laggiest games I think I've ever played on the console. Another game that comes to mind that was maybe equally as laggy was a game called Control, which you guys might know if you ever got a chance to play that on PS4. If you guys have an opportunity to play this on console or PC, as in you have both and you don't know what to pick it on, I would vastly recommend that you try and pick this up on PC if you have a good computer, because the lag that I experienced with the old PS4, by the way, which is outdated hardware at this point, let's be honest, it's fucked. It was really laggy, and that really did cripple my happiness at times. It stopped me wanting to do stuff with my base and building up my base. I wanted to continue expanding my base. I wanted to build an observatory. I wanted to put more windows in my base. I wanted to add more structures to it. But I realised that the more stuff I was adding to my base, the poorer performance the game actually runs at. You know, you're talking like at certain intervals. You know, like I don't have an FPS counter on my console, but I know that it's going to like sub 15 frames sometimes, and that is just absolutely ridiculous. Painful maybe is a better word, but it didn't bother me too much. But especially as you got deeper and deeper into the game, the save files were taking a long time to go through, and crashes started to occur very frequently. So I think we got 3 or 4 days into the game before we had our first crash, and then we had a day or two with no more crashes, and then now that we're getting to the end, we've played about 7 days now in a row. Today we had a crash. I think we had do we have 2 crashes today and 1 yesterday, and it's when you try and save the game for me. My crashes occur when I try to save the game. Because this game has no autosave, I think to myself, okay, we've been playing for 2 hours, I better save now in case the game crashes, and then it would crash as I saved, and I would lose all of my progress for the day. We'd have to go ahead and redo things, which is very frustrating. I don't really need to explain, you know, everybody's lost a bit of data at some point, and you know, I don't need to get into too much detail, but if you have an opportunity, please don't play this on the old PS4, unless you have to. If you don't have anything else, definitely pick the game up, but just be warned that as you get deeper into your save file, and you save more often, and you get further in, and you add more assets to the game, it does start to run like a pile of shite. I encountered a couple of glitches as well through the game that I need to quickly mention, just a couple of bugs. Towards the end of the game, specifically, you go to this kind of area that you guys might be familiar with if you got to the very end point of the game. There's this kind of portal hub where all the portals connect to one ginormous room, and then it connects onto the kind of enzyme challenge that you do at the end to get the cure with the big massive sea monster. That room, with my prawn suit, was really it was really unstable. My prawn suit kept getting stuck in the floor, and I had to use my grappling hook to unstick, which was really frustrating, especially when you get to the point where you've put like 100 hours plus into the game, and you're trying to get to the finish line, but then all these kind of minute kind of instances start occurring. Prawn suit started glitching out. There was a moment at one point where I just, one of the, the teleportation creatures that warp you, I got warped through a wall out of bounds, and it killed me instantly when I was at full HP at one point. And then another bug I had is when I was playing at one point, I think we died to something. I think we might have ran out of oxygen, and I went back to get my sea glider, which was full HP under no duress when we left it, and when we went back, it was just completely gone from the game. It had completely vanished. Some people speculated that a sea creature like a leviathan might have killed it or whatever, but when we left it, it was not under any duress. It was not in an area where I think it would have been threatened, and yeah, it was just completely gone, vanished. So I had to reload and fix that kind of scenario, which was a bit of a bummer. But yeah, other than the performance hindrances, I will say that sometimes, although I do like the kind of exploration that this game gives you, I really enjoyed it in the beginning, not so much towards the end. There's a couple of these underwater bases, which, because of how the game is supposed to unfold, it's meant to be challenging. You're meant to feel lost a little bit, and, assuming that you've made the right upgrades on your hardware, as in your vehicles, exploration becomes easier, right? Especially if you get some of the sonar upgrades. I would definitely recommend those if you haven't already built those. The sonar upgrades are very helpful. That being said, some of the endgame caves were really quite, it kind of went beyond stressful at times. It became like taxingly frustrating to find little places and some of the last minute caves, because there was a couple of times where I was using the data that the game gave me very quickly. I've got one in particular I'd like to point out. The disease research facility is 800 meters down, okay? And the game quite clearly tells you right here, it says southwest of the enforcement platform. Now, the enforcement platform, as far as I'm aware, is the giant island with the gun on it. You know, the big laser tower that shoots the rescue ship out of the sky, the big building? The game tells you to go southwest from that platform, but the actual disease research facility is nowhere close to that platform. It's 2,000 meters away, literally 2,000 meters away, and the game says, oh, it's southwest of there. I don't even know why it tried to give you that clue. These directions are fucking terrible. It's the same when you get to the primary containment facility. You find the kind of underwater fire lava cavern, and you find the little scientific lab, right? Once you get there, this one here, it says go southeast at a depth of 1.4 kilometers. Southeast, my ass, dude. We literally went out of the area, we went northwest, and then we found the crater that would take us down. Now, before anybody says, I know there's multiple access routes to find different areas of this game. There's a lot of different underwater caverns and passages that connect to the Lost River and things like that. I know that there's a lot of different doorways, but I was using this information here. Sometimes the chat was trying to tell me, oh Jack, you can just go down this way and I'll show you where to go from the Lost River. I was absolutely adamant on using the information that the game gave me to see if it was actually accurate, and sometimes the caves, trying to find these caves with some of these directions was absolutely woeful and borderline painful. Now again, it was a minor gripe, and if you've only played the beginning of this game, you'll not know what I'm talking about. It feels very chill, but there was a couple of times where I just felt like the routes that the game was kind of giving you to find the next area, it didn't really feel intuitive. A lot of these, yeah, for the most part, Subnautica was really fantastic. I just wish that some of these kind of later areas were a bit kind of touched up, and I do wish that I'd run a little bit smoother on the console, but other than that, if you're playing on PC and you didn't have any of these issues, maybe you would just love this game. I feel like I do kind of want to go back and play it again, and I've just finished it, so that in itself is a symbol or a sign that this is a quite one of the good ones. And if you can get it for a cheap price, then you know there's a good amount of content in the game for you to play through and enjoy if you like that kind of thing. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know any of your thoughts. I'm pretty sure there's I don't think there's anything else I was thinking about that I wanted to mention. I'll probably remember all of my extra points once we're finished. But yeah, Subnautica.